Ooh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh.
All right, I think we're going to get started. Welcome everybody to this wonderful Wednesday. And today we are broadcasting live from the Cabrillo Marine Aquarium. I want to introduce our fantastic outreach educators today. Our team today is Sapana. She is going to be joining us from home base today. Hello, Sapana.
Yay.
And we also have Gavin and Jamie. They're in our Tidepool exhibit right now. And I think there's Jamie. Hello, hello, hello. And we're going to start off today. My name is Patricia, so welcome everybody. We're going to start off today with a wonderful video of our Tidepools here at Cabrillo Marine Aquarium. So Sapana is going to cue that up for us. And here we go. Did we know that one of the most dynamic ecosystems along our coastline is the rocky shore, and this unique habitat supports an amazing array of ocean life? So on our rocky shores, there are 2 high tides and 2 low tides each day. Twice a day, this dynamic habitat is revealed by the changing tides. So when the tide is completely out, which is called low tide, pockets of water are left behind in the rocks, forming small rocky pools. And these water-filled pockets are called tide pools. And they retain just enough water when the tide goes out to support an extremely rich community of marine plants and animals. And some of these fantastic animals and plants that we showcase here at the aquarium are local species. We have algae, seaweeds, mussels, barnacles, snails, sea anemones. We have urchins, fish, and many, many others. So we're going to go ahead and just take a look at some of the wonderful animals that we have just along our rocky shore here at the aquarium. We're seeing our keyhole limpets, which is a type of sea snail. right. Thank you, Sapana, for sharing your screen. And we're going to pass the Zoom mic over to Jamie and Gavin, and they're going to showcase some of our tanks in our exhibit hall. So take it away, Jamie and Gavin.
All right, thank you so much. So we are in front of our lobster tank. We have a couple lobsters right here. Before we get a close-up on the lobsters, actually, we'll go ahead and do the close-up right now. So you guys get a good look at a couple of our lobsters. We have a male and female lobster that are pretty easy to see here. Sorry about the glare that's going on, so you can get this focused. So as you can see, these lobsters, they have 10 hook-shaped legs. We call them decapods. Deca means 10, pod means legs or foot, and they are hook-shaped, so they're able to hang on to those rocks. And a lot of animals that live in the tidepools, they have special adaptations to hang on to rocks, just like these hook-shaped legs for the lobsters and crabs as well. And we can go down, you can see crab down here. This is one of our sheep crabs. Sorry about the glare. There we go. This is the female sheep crab, and the way you can tell the difference if a crab is the male or female is if you look at where what you think might be her belly. That's the bottom of her exoskeleton or her outside skeleton. And since it's a circle, it's round, that means it's a female. If it were a triangle, it would be a male. So the females have the big round bottom of their exoskeleton because that's where she would store her eggs, and males are triangular. They don't need to store eggs. Now, what's really cool about crabs and lobsters, I mentioned the word exoskeleton. Just like insects, their skeleton is on the outside of their body, which means it cannot grow with them. So in order for them to get bigger, they will do something called molting. And they molt their exoskeleton. We'll go ahead and switch cameras. I'll show you right here. We have a molt of a little lobster right here. So when they get bigger, what they'll do is right in this area, they'll kind of crack their back just like this, and they'll fold kind of their body in half, swim out of their exoskeleton, and they'll suck up a bunch of water to get their bodies nice and big, and they'll stay still depending on the size for over a week. And depending on the size of lobster, the age of lobster, sometimes they'll do it a couple times a month, sometimes a couple times a year, sometimes more than a year. So it just depends on how big the lobsters are. And while they're staying still, their new soft body will get a nice hard exoskeleton. They'll let all that water out, and then they'll have room to grow in the exoskeleton. Kind of like if we're buying shoes, we tend to buy shoes for kids anyways. Tend to buy shoes bigger than their feet, so they have room to grow. So that is how the lobsters, all the crustaceans, crabs, shrimp will grow. Now, if you guys want to kind of be freaked out a little bit more, I mentioned insects too, which means spiders do it as well. So if you guys need that spider in your house, it actually may be bigger. It's just the exoskeleton to make it another one. So we're going to go ahead and show you a video. I'm going to pass the mic over to Sapana, and she's just going to show you a quick video of how that molting works. And then we'll showcase some other crustaceans back in here. So Sapana, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to you if you can show that molting video.
Yep. All right, everyone. I'll be sharing a video with you guys with the lobster molting. Okay. Hold on.
If it's not working, Sapana, we could go ahead and look at other tanks until you get that going.
It's saying that one participant can share at a time. Is someone else sharing their screen?
You want to try again? I just removed our spotlight if you would like to try again.
Okay. It's still not letting me share.
Okay. So no worries, we'll pass that exoskeleton video on again with the mold. We'll just kind of switch cameras back over. So again, what they'll do is they'll just fold their body in half. Right now, this is empty. So if it had just molted, it would be coming out, and they're actually a lot lighter pink, a different kind of super light color. They're very soft and squishy. So that's how you can tell if a lobster has molted because of the coloration, and obviously it's not hard anymore. For those of you who eat like soft-shelled crabs, those are the crabs that have just molted, and they're in the process of getting a new exoskeleton. And they do take everything. They take their antenna, all their legs. You can see their hook-shaped legs kind of hanging on their tails and everything, and that is how they would protect themselves. So it's not a shell. It is an exoskeleton. It's like their bones on the outside, basically. So if we want to look at a couple other crustaceans here, which is what crabs are, lobsters are, which means jointed legs or foot. So here's a couple of our red rock shrimp and our dock shrimp, or those little guys with all the different kind of stripes and stuff on them. And then down below, let's see if we can find some hermit crabs that are out and about. A little bit smaller guys. And there's one kind of hanging out. There's a snail hanging on the glass. And hermit crabs will take old snail shells and make their home out of them. And this little guy that's on the move, that's one of our hermit crabs. Now, even though hermit crabs find old shells, when they need to get bigger, they'll find bigger shells. They do still molt, but they will molt half their body, and the other half kind of remains soft, and that's why they need that snail shell. And then sometimes we'll get in fights with other hermit crabs when they see a bigger shell that they want. They'll try to fight a hermit crab for that prime real estate almost. They're just a couple of our other rock shrimp, our other crustaceans and arthropods. Now moving over to this thing, we're giving you a little tour of our aquarium here.
Jamie, do you think you could put the mic a little bit closer to you?
Okay.
If we can switch mics, we just put it on this one.
All right.
You can hear me a little bit better.
Which is it? Is it
The mic. Go on your mic up and go to the Pro webcam. One
Pro?
more. Down. All right, can you guys hear me better a little bit now?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that feedback. Sorry about that. So hiding in here, and earlier he was out and about, and too bad he's not right now. But this is our mantis shrimp. And I'm really sad that he's kind of hiding, but that's what they do, is they bury themselves kind of in the ground. They're little, or in the sand, little burrowers. Sorry, I have a hard time saying that. But this is just a picture of what it would look like if he were out and about. They do have those really pretty colors. They have really complex colors in their eyes, so they can see actually a lot more colors than we can because of how their eyes are. And they're super, super strong. And that they kind of make like a punching, they kind of punch their claws, and it could actually break certain glasses. So they're really cool. And Patricia, if you want to add any more fun facts about the mantis shrimp here, I know you've got some fun facts about them.
Yes, we see that in our tank, our mantis shrimp is burrowed, and they are actually considered reclusive sand dwellers, spending the majority of their life hidden in their burrows on the seafloor. This refuge plays a very critical role in their defense, their reproduction, and predatory behavior that they display. Mantis shrimp, just like Jamie also had mentioned, have very specialized vision. It's actually called trinocular vision, and each compound eye is separated into 3 sections that focus on the same point. So this gives each independently moving eye very precise and depth perception. They also too can have very complex eyes that can see infrared through ultraviolet light, in addition to several types of polarized light. So the human eye can detect 3 light frequencies, while the mantis shrimp, we believe, can detect up to 12. They're amazing, amazing creatures. And that's a fantastic shot of our mantis shrimp in its burrow.
We'll see if we can come back to him. If he comes out, I will definitely come back to him. All right, now moving on to some other animals that you might find in the tide pools are some sea snails. These are our Calyx Welts. So they have the hard shell with the bodies. You can kind of see these guys hanging on over here. Now, what's really cool is they have something called a proboscis, which is this really long, you can kind of see that's a model of one. And here's a picture of what it would look like, that they're able to reach certain depths to get their fish or their food. So we do have fish kind of set up in here. Apparently they're not very hungry right now. So apparently these guys don't want to cooperate with us today. That's okay. But that's what it would look like, this picture here. Now over in this tank, we have a couple sea stars. These are bat stars. They have a webbing just like a bat. And focusing on this one right here, trying to get a good picture that's kind of in focus a little bit. This is a sea star with his stomach out. They will actually spit out their stomachs. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna let Gavin take over. They will actually spit out their stomachs to eat their food. And it does look like clear jelly. So all those little things that look like macaroni, those are their tube feet. So they crawl along, they're able to stick to things. They'll find their food using those tube feet because that's how they smell. They'll spit out their stomachs, digest whatever they're eating, and then bring it right back in. So it's a pretty cool function.
What's different about this bat star, Jamie?
Well, their webbing is kind of like a bat wing. That's how they get their name bat star, because it is like a bat wing.
This one has 6 arms.
I missed that one. So most sea stars do have 5 arms. This one does have 6. Now, sometimes that could have been how they're born. Sometimes if a sea star gets like a cut or something, or they think they lost an arm, they will grow an additional arm, because if they lose an arm, they are able to regenerate and grow another one. This one might have been born with 6 arms. Usually they are born with 5. And then moving into our other tank. So these animals, along with those bat stars we just saw, instead of having hook-shaped legs, the sea stars, these pokey things are sea urchins, the sea snails, they use suction cups. And that's how they're able to hang on to things, whether it's glass, your hands, maybe rocks. So these are we have purple sea urchins, and that little white dot that you can see on that sea urchin is actually their teeth. They have a teeth-like structure. It's called Aristotle's lantern. It's like 5 little teeth. This guy's really got it sticking out, so we can kind of put it into focus. Because he was eating kelp. So they'll use their suction cups, and between their suction cups, which are the really thin ones moving between their spines, move the seaweed up to their mouth, and that's what they're eating. So if you ever see kelp with little holes in them, it's usually from the sea urchins. They're eating the kelp.
They're having a tug of war with this piece of seaweed.
They are. And the longer one with the really long spines are our red urchins, and the smaller ones are our purple urchins. Now here in California, they are not poisonous. They do not hurt unless you're not very nice to them and get a spine in your finger. Next to them, this little guy right here, this is our sea cucumber. Also related to sea urchins and sea stars. You might think it's related to a sea slug. They are not. They are related to sea urchins and sea stars. They're called echinoderms, which just means spiny or spiky skin. All over this tank, you might be wondering what those are. Those are brittle stars. So sea cucumbers are really cool. If they feel threatened, they will actually take their insides and spit it out. And it kind of looks like silly string. So that's their way of getting away from prey, because then getting away from predators, because then the predator would eat their insides and the sea cucumber can get away. And then they can regenerate, which is pretty cool. What do we have else in here? I think it was just those brittle stars. Now, if you guys go to tropical areas, there are such things as like black sea urchins. Those ones are poisonous. But here in California, we do not have poisonous sea urchins. But they're really cool. Again, use those suction cups. You can put your finger in between the spines of a sea urchin, and they might hug it. If you're left with, I think Gavin's going to try to do that because he's going to good luck. I don't know if he will. Oh, he's gonna feed. But if you ever touch a sea urchin and get like a red dye on your finger, we'll call it a sea urchin kiss. I'm trying to give you a kiss instead of a hug. Trying to let that urchin try to grab some seaweed. Now, years ago, when otters were being hunted, the population of sea urchins just kind of exploded and was eating all the kelp. So even the kelp started to decline because the otters kind of kept urchins in check. So luckily otters are bringing back, we're kind of getting the food chain back in order.
You can come back to that.
Oh, our mantis shrimp is out. So let's go ahead and go back to the mantis shrimp so you guys can get a really good look here before he hides again. So there's our mantis shrimp. Oh, there he goes. He's like, he must be camera shy. But hopefully you guys got a good look of those complex eyes. He's not a fan of being on camera, apparently. All right. And if you guys want to get a good look of our new Tidepool touch, and not a touch tank, this one's just our Tidepool tank over here. And what we'll do is we'll actually go underwater. So we're gonna go ahead and switch cameras so you guys can get a good view of what it's like maybe underwater at the Tidepool here. So we're gonna go ahead and switch to this camera. All right.
Okay, so this tank is really special because it presents a surge of water to replicate the wave. It comes out through here, and if you see, I'll open up this part. It's actually surging right now. Fills up. So let's take a look in the water. These are a bunch of perch, shiner perch. That's the shiner perch, also known as a 7-11. It's got those 11 right there. Shiner perch, shiner perch. Zebra perch. And we got some Tidepool sculpin. His pectoral fins can hold on to the rocks. Oh, what do we have here? Can you guys see that? That is a clingfish. Let's see if we can get a better view. Right there, can you see that?
No.
Where is it? I lost it. Right there.
Being blocked by seaweed.
Okay. Anyways, it's vertically on the wall.
So that way.
Right there. Very hard to see, but it's got a modified mouth and can suck onto the rocks. And look at, there's a snail, a sea star. Let's get a good look at this Tidepool sculpin. Where's that Tidepool sculpin? Right there. Their fins are adapted to hug on to kind of rocks. They could scoot along the bottom floor. So there he goes. All right, so that's a little view of our new Tidepool surge tank. There's the water coming in right now. Oh, the kelp fish. Where's the blenny? Where's that a blenny? Yeah, maybe we'll go in the touch tank. So take this out. This is kind of, the lighting's bad here.
We're gonna go ahead and take you guys to our Tidepool touch tanks. So if you guys come visit us at the aquarium, these would be the animals that you would get to touch. Some animals that you going into the back of the tank. These are some of our sharks. These are leopard sharks swimming around. We have a moray eel kind of hiding in the rocks. Now these guys you wouldn't find in the tide pools, maybe just a little bit further from the tide pools. The sharks like to get nice and close because they think they are about to get fed. And that is one of our smooth hound sharks. Obviously doesn't have the coloration like the leopards. And if you were to touch them, they are a lot smoother than the leopard sharks as well. That is our giant sea bass. We do raise some of our sea bass here at the aquarium. They do get really, really big, over 7 feet. So they get really, really big. This is a really small guy compared to how big they can get. There was a lobster hiding in here. We were hoping to get a good look. There he is. Gavin, go up just a little bit. Up, up. You can go, there you go, right there. Perfect. So lobsters love to find kind of like caves and anywhere they can hide within the rocks. They feel a lot safer kind of hiding in there. So sometimes he comes out, sometimes he feels a lot safer just kind of staying hidden underneath the rocks. So if you guys were ever to go scuba diving or snorkeling, usually when you're wanting to find lobsters, they're gonna be in those caves and under their rocks and stuff like that. So here's a great view of our moray eel. Kind of hanging out. The sharks are definitely saying hello. They really want to be fed if they have not been fed already. Today is one of their feeding days, so. And then here are some more snails. These are animals that you are going to find in the tide pools. This is a limpet, a keyhole limpet. The hole at the top is where they breathe. It's also where they release their waste. So if you were to ever touch one of these, you can touch around the hole. Sometimes their shell is covering their soft body, which is called the mantle. Sometimes the mantle covers the shell. And like I said, it releases its waste. So there you go. And then we do have a bat star hanging out right next to him as well. And next to those bat stars, I don't know if you guys could have seen, but those are some mussels. Sea stars love to eat mussels. That shark is kind of towards the top. He's looking for its food. But sea stars love to eat mussels, and that's what they use their suction cups to really pry those mussels open to spit out their stomachs and eat the mussel. This is also leopard sharky. The pattern is a lot different. It's called a variegated pattern. Just a special way of his pattern. All right. Now, if Sapana, I don't know if we want to try a game with them just so they can see the families of the tide pool animals. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and try to get the game going for you guys. And if it doesn't work, or we want to just end on some fun news, we'll come back to the aquarium. So we'll go ahead and pass it back to Sapana.
Okay, thank you. So here we have a game of tide pool animals, and we want to see which animals are related to which other animals. So let's start with the ochre sea star. So on our left side, we have the ochre sea star, the hermit crab, the chestnut cowrie, the sea anemone, and the market squid. So we're trying to see what animals on this side are related to the other animals on the other side, the sea hare, the moon jellies, the sea cucumber, the octopus, and the spiny lobster. So let's see what the ochre sea star is related to. It is related to the sea cucumber. So they don't look related, right? They look completely different, but there are certain characteristics that make them related. So for example, the ochre sea star and the sea cucumber, they both have spiny skin. The spiny skin is characteristic of echinoderms, like the sea urchins that Jamie was talking about earlier. Also, they could regenerate. So that's another characteristic of echinoderms that these two share. So let's go on to the next one, the hermit crab. Let's see what the hermit crab is related to. The spiny lobster. They are both arthropods. They both have the 10 legs, the 10 hook-shaped legs, and they both have exoskeletons. The difference is the hermit crab is able to leave their shell and find larger shells to make a home, while the spiny lobster mainly just molts its exoskeleton. And next we have the chestnut cowrie and is related to the sea hare. They are both gastropods. One has an external shell, which is the chestnut cowrie, and the sea hare, on the other hand, has an internal shell. And they are both like I said, they're both in the gastropodic family. Next, we have the sea anemone, and it is related to moon jellies, believe it or not. They're in the family of cnidarians. So the sea anemone has tentacles that have pneumatocysts. When we touch it, we don't really feel anything. It just feels sticky. But when other animals touch it, they might feel a stinging sensation. Moon jellies, however, are pretty similar. So we could touch the head of the moon jellies, and their stingers are not as dangerous as other jellies, but they also use their tentacles to capture food and bring it to their mouth and eat it. And if you could see in the picture, it looks like they have a flower on their bell. It's actually their 4 stomachs. So next we have the market squid, and it is related to the octopus. And so these guys are cephalopods, so head-footed animals, versus the gastropods, which are stomach-footed animals. So the market squid has 10 arms and 2 tentacles. The 2 tentacles has the suction cups that they could shoot out to their prey, grab onto, and then bring it to their beak, which is beneath all their arms and tentacles. And the octopus has a similar anatomy, but they only have the 8 arms. However, their 8 arms have tons and tons of suction cups, and they're really strong. And what's pretty cool about the octopus is that scientists think that they actually have 9 brains. So they have 1 localized brain in their mantle, and the rest is actually shared throughout their 8 arms. And both of these guys have chromatophores, which are cells on their skin that help them camouflage with their background. The market squid, however, they don't camouflage as well as the octopus, but they might use their chromatophores to communicate with each other instead. While the octopus could camouflage with the background, some octopus, like the mimic octopus, actually pretend to be other animals. So that's pretty cool. So these are the animals that are related to each other within the tide pools, and you would have never guessed because they all look so different. So I'm going to pass this back to Jamie and Gavin at the aquarium.
All right, thank you so much, Sapana. So we kind of went deeper in our touch tank. We're going to go ahead and end on our tide pool animals, since that's what we are talking about. So as Gavin's going by, what you see are some pieces of kelp and sea urchins. Those are purple sea urchins, our red sea urchins. Let's see if they'll give me a hug if I kind of touch my finger.
So it looks like the mic might have cut out a little bit, Jamie, but I see that you are getting a sea urchin hug. So this is our red urchin.
Yep. And then on the next view, Gavin will do it. Can you guys hear me okay? Are we back?
You're back.
Perfect, thank you. Maybe I won't run away from the computer next time. So Gavin, can you show your finger again, that red dye? I had mentioned it earlier inside the aquarium. So that's when we call it a sea urchin kiss, because they kind of left a mark. It is not blood, it's just the coloration of the urchin. So sometimes they'll leave a little bit red dye on your finger, and that's when we call it a red urchin or a sea urchin kiss instead of a sea urchin hug. These are some of the anemones that Sapana were talking about, how they are related to jellyfish. So if you were to touch a sea anemone, it feels like Scotch tape. The sea anemone is actually stinging you, but it does not affect our skin at all, and that's why it does feel very sticky. In the middle is their mouth. Do not ever touch the middle of a sea urchin, or sorry, sea anemone, not sea urchin, because that is where they eat. Going back to some of our keyhole limpets. So most of the limpets that you will see, they will either come in like a tannish color or a black color. Those are the main colors that they're gonna come in. Kind of cruising along our tide pools here. Another keyhole limpet. These are our mussels. The sea star's favorite food. The mussels, their adaptation to hang onto the rocks. So we mentioned some animals use suction cups. Some of them have the hook-shaped legs. These guys have something called byssal threads. It's those really thin string-like things on the mussel. But they're super, super sticky, super, super strong. Stronger than a spider's web, that's for sure. And all over this mussel are some barnacles. Now, barnacles will use a glue-like substance to kind of glue themselves down on whether it's a mussel, a rock. Certain whales have their own species of barnacles. And then they kind of live with their head down and their feet sticking up. They are crustaceans. They are related to crabs and lobsters. And they grab food that way. So that's how they eat. Most of the time, you can't see it unless you're under a microscope, those barnacles, depending on the size. Back to our red sea urchin here. There we go. That's a good view of that hug. And they're really just trying to see if you're food. If you're a piece of kelp that they would grab onto with the spines and then use their suction cups to transfer it to the bottom, which is where their mouth is. Gavin found something, not sure what it is. It looks like an empty snail shell.
Yeah.
If we can end on the other, the ochre sea stars, because I don't think we were able to get a chance to view those in the recording. So there's a lot of different kinds of sea stars here at the aquarium. We do have bat stars, brittle stars, and then we also.
Oh, it looks like Jamie is cutting out again, but it looks like we're going to bring the GoPro over to our sea urchin or our sea stars. There we go. We see our sea stars. Sea stars have their rays and their eye spots are on the end of their rays. And this is our ochre sea star. And Gavin is pointing to where their eye spots are. And right
I can't see very well. It's just light and dark.
Jamie's back in. All right, we can hear you now, Jamie.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. What Gavin is pointing at, that's something called a madropori. It's what sea stars have. They'll suck in water. They have a hydrovascular skeleton. So they'll suck up water. It'll transfer to their suction cups or their tube feet. And that's how they're able to move around. They will also have their waste come out of it as well. So it's very important to them. That one, we got a good look at their little suction cups kind of moving around, probably sniffing around. All right, perfect. So thank you so much for joining us. Patricia, I'm gonna throw it back to you. Thank you, everybody. Hope you had a great time. So let's go ahead and throw it back to you, Patricia.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Gavin. Thank you, Sapana. And thank you, Diane, for helping us out today, showcasing all our fantastic animals that live in our Tidepool Rocky Shore habitat. So we're going to go ahead and sign off now. Everybody have a wonderful Wednesday. Thanks for joining us, all our students. And we will see you next week. Thank you.